Local and live, covering Franklin and Washington counties, it's Let's Talk Tri-State with Tiny and Katy.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Tri-State, powered by HomeRight Windows and Doors in Waynesboro. The right choice, voted 2024 Best of the Tri-State.
Our next guest, this is something I'm not super familiar, so I have a lot of questions for you, but we are joined by Randy Wilson. He is a leadership and business coach for a company called Real PD. Thanks so much for being here with us on Let's Talk Tri-State.
It's a pleasure to be here.
And Real PD is an acronym.
Yes.
What does it stand for?
Well, I was in the Air Force 25 years, so I had to have an acronym. It stands for Reliable, Efficient, Ethical Leadership, and the PD is Professional Development.
And so you work for your own company.
Yes.
And you provide leadership and business coaching.
Yes.
What is your background? How did you get into this?
Yeah, it's funny. So 25 years Air Force, 6 years in the corporate world, and one day my wife asked me, what's your passion? Because I was having a tough period, 5 in the morning to 11 at night, a lot of work. And she said, what's your passion? And I said, I love to help people to grow, talk about leadership. And then she connected me to the John Maxwell team. And then I became certified several months later. And that's how it all started, because she asked me that one question.
So then do you coach businesses or individuals or both?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah. The businesses, it could be like coaching certain individuals into business, or it could be team building, it could be team training, it could be whatever the business needs. But sometimes I'll have an individual come to me and say, hey, I'm looking at leaving this job and starting another one, but I don't know what to do. Can you help me? And so it's whatever the individual or team needs.
And then do you have offer different levels of coaching?
It's they call it executive level. You're working with like the C-suite, CEO, CIO, COO, all the C's, or all the way down to a worker, right? I had a bank that asked me, hey, can you come in and help this person with their attitude? Right?
Wow.
They were eligible for retiring in the spring, and this was October, and they said if they didn't change their attitude, they weren't going to retire. So I went in, sat down with the lady. An hour later, she walked out, hugged the HR director, and apologized. She ended up retiring. So I help people at all levels.
It's a nice company that would even extend that as an option to say, look, we want to look out for this lady, this employee. We want to see her make retirement, but it's not going to happen if something doesn't change. So not a lot of companies would do that.
You're right.
So good for them. But the question that I have for you is, do you find more reward personally in the organizational coaching or the individual coaching?
Both. I can't say it's more, one's more than the other. It's the results. Seeing the light bulbs come on, see the change, and seeing either the individual or team to grow and to be better. Each one is very rewarding for me.
Do you see any recurring themes as you've been doing this coaching?
Yeah, and it's interesting. Doesn't matter the profession, doesn't matter the location, doesn't matter the level. A lot of people, they focus on everything else except for taking care of the things they can take care of. Even like I had a CFO of a large organization. They were complaining about what the CEO wasn't doing. And I said, well, what are you doing? Well, the CEO isn't doing, well, what are you doing? The CEO is, I'm like, this is about you. What can you do, right, to move you forward, move the organization forward? And that's a common theme. And even down to the lowest level, well, look at leadership. What are they doing? What's everybody else? People are wondering what everybody else is doing instead of focusing on themselves and being the best that they can be.
They allow someone else's issues to hinder them for some reason.
Yeah, they take it personally.
Do you ever find when you're coaching that it starts to carry over into like life coaching at all?
Yeah.
And is that a boundary that you have to set with your clients, or is it fluid?
It's fluid. Yeah, a lot of people are affected by what happens at home, right? Or they're affected by childhood stuff. And so that ends up working itself into a session a lot of times, because they're thinking a certain way, acting a certain way, don't know why, and then I start asking questions, and then you realize, well, there it is. like I was picked on in school. I'm very focused on how other people are treated because of that. And that goes all, I mean, I'm 59, so it goes back a long ways. Everybody's affected by things that have happened in their lives, but they just don't realize a lot of times. And that carries over into work. So it's a lot of times it's the individual personal side as well as the business side.
And then if someone signs up with you, I'm trying to think how I want to word this question. Is there an allotted amount of time that you work with the clients, or is it just changing based on the needs of person to person?
It changes. So like if you and we sign up, I usually go session to session. So it might be a 15-minute thing, it might be a half hour. Hour is about the max. I have some clients been coaching for years, right? And they get something out of every session. Sometimes it's only a couple sessions, so it flexes.
How would someone know if they needed coaching? How would you know, okay, I have to call Randy and get some assistance?
I think you both need coaching.
Let's do it. We're here. We have a few minutes.
Everybody really needs coaching, because what coaching is, it's about helping the individual to learn about themselves, realize things about themselves so they can make changes. And thinking about ourselves can be painful a lot of times, right? So we don't do it. But when you have a coaching session, you get into that, then there's real growth. And everybody needs coaching in some way, including me.
Yeah. I think I look at it from the standpoint of, I always think of a plant or a flower. Every flower needs to grow, and the moment that the flower stops growing, it starts dying.
That's it. Yeah.
And there you go.
Yeah.
And like you said, that goes from the top down. If the moment comes where you think you can't learn anything else, then stop what you're doing, start a TV show, write a book, because you know the secret that no one else knows.
That's it.
And you need to share that thing.
That's it.
Do people ever call you if their career is going really well and everything's great, and they just want to make sure that they're staying on the same path? Yeah. Would that be a conversation that you would also have with people?
Yeah, absolutely, because even though things are going well, there's still things that people need help with, right? Maybe it's an interpersonal thing. Maybe it's, how can I lead my team better to get them to be even better than they are today? Because you think about Olympians, right? They don't stop practicing. They don't, okay, I don't need you, coach, anymore, right? They don't get rid of their coaches because they know that no matter how good they are, they could be better. Mm. So, yeah, I mean, doesn't matter how good an individual or a company is, they can still be better.
One of the best quotes that I ever heard was from Jimmy Johnson, the great football coach. And he said, we don't practice to get it right. We practice so that we can't get it wrong. Yeah. And that was so profound to me. And it would come from a football coach. Yeah, but Jimmy Johnson, he's a Hall of Famer for a reason. And if he never said one notable thing in just that one, he did it for me, because I always think of that.
Yeah. So then, I mean, if we were in a coaching session, I would ask you something like, so what was it about that really touched you, right? That would be a coaching.
Can we have a quick coaching?
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so what was it about that spoke to you and continues to speak to you?
Because in what we do in our business, being on the radio, there's always something that needs practice. And we practice it, and we practice it, and we practice it, and it's reps. It's just like anything, bodybuilding, whatever. So what spoke to me is that's a direct application to what we do. And as the person who is trying to lead our programming team, we need to practice. We cannot forget the basics. I'm sure Jimmy Johnson, when he was saying this quote, was still having his players come out and run those same drills every single day. It's like when we do math, we start with addition, then subtraction, then multiplication, then division, but you never stop adding, subtracting, and multiplying just because you get to division. It's all foundational things. And that's what spoke to me, is that the broad application for it.
So how do you keep doing that? Because sometimes we probably don't feel like it. We're not energized. Mm-hmm. Lots of stuff going on. So how do you, in those moments, how do you still carry that on?
I always give examples of where I see staff doing those basics and reinforce that and give because I mean it. And it's not just hyperbole. I mean it when I say I notice those basics. And if you continue to do that, which I highly encourage you do, it's one of the goals, then you can only stand to improve. Yeah. And when you do better, everyone does better.
Yeah, so good, isn't it? Yeah.
Do you want to coach me?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do we start?
So what's something in your life like that quote? What's one thing that perhaps your grandparents or a mentor or somebody shared with you? What would that be?
A piece of life advice, perhaps?
Yeah, a quote or something.
I think something that I keep in my mind a lot is fake it till you make it. Walk like you know where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me personally, sometimes I have very, very big emotions, and they get the better of me, and I don't always like for people to see those things, so I try to keep them a little bit more hidden in the fake it like till you make it type of thing.
Is that true? You see
It's
it?
very true.
I
Yes.
am
Yeah.
an incredibly emotional person.
Yeah.
If I'm not between here, if I'm not here, I'm crying. If I'm too happy, I'm crying. If I'm upset, I'm crying. If I'm angry, frustrated, anything, I'm crying.
That's why
A lot.
Katy had asked me years ago,
Yeah.
because we've known each other and worked together the same amount of time. So since 2009, we've worked together.
Yeah.
And she would always say to me, "Tiny, what do I do if I'm doing this and I mess up?" And I've always told her two words: keep going.
Yeah.
Because most of the time, people don't have any idea you did. And if they did notice, they realize you're human just like they are. So you can't lose in that scenario if you just keep going.
Yeah. You beat yourself up.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's intense.
But
Yes.
but realistically, though, Randy, don't we all?
Yeah, we do.
And if we don't,
Yeah.
then I think we get to that. Either you are indifferent and don't care if you don't beat yourself up, or you have reached what I just said earlier, apparently that pinnacle where you don't need to improve. I'll never have a harsher critic than myself.
Yeah.
When I was growing up and would get the report cards, if it would have a grade or a mark that I didn't like, I was so disappointed in myself. All the other kids were worried, oh my goodness, my parents are going to find out.
Yeah.
Forget my parents. I mean, nothing mom or dad is going to do to me is going to make it worse than I'm feeling right now with that disappointment, that I would go home dejected, say, here's my report card. Don't worry though, I've already talked to the teacher, and I was always I never wanted those bad marks on the report card. And that goes with life too. Who wants bad marks?
Yeah.
But I've always learned more from my mistakes than I have from my successes. And I value them more than I do the successes.
Do you think there's a way that, when you're beating yourself up, you feel it in your body, right? You feel like down.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way that you could get the same results of continuing to get past that without beating yourself up, but just realize, hey, you know what? I need to keep growing. I need to keep changing and getting better without the beating yourself up part. Is there a way that you could do that?
Maybe just education. Through education, the more you know, the more you educate yourself, the less. I don't know.
Yeah, like when you beat yourself up, it's not a good feeling.
No,
right?
it's terrible.
Right?
Yeah.
So why would we want to do that to
Mhm.
ourselves, right?
Mhm.
So how do we? You know what? That didn't go as well as I wanted.
How can I learn for next
Right?
time?
How can I learn? Like, do you know Thomas Edison? Right? Awesome story. He in the early 1900s, he had like a 8-facility invention campus, and just before Christmas, it all burned. Like, imagine watching your life's work burning. Something profound he said to his kids was, "Kids, get your mom because she'll never see a fire this grand again." Could you imagine, right? Imagine what our responses would be, beating ourselves up. How could I do that? How did I, right? That's the beating ourselves up. But his attitude was, right, get your mom.
Yeah.
Right?
Wow.
And then he rebuilt, and then he invented more stuff for like a decade after that.
I think one of the best, I thought you were going to go here with Thomas Edison.
Yeah.
One of the best quotes that he had was, there was over 100 times that he, quote unquote, we would probably say he failed the light bulb experiment.
Yeah.
And when he was questioned about it, and they said, well, how did you deal with the fact that you failed 100 times to get it successful? He said, I didn't fail 100 times. He said, I just found 100 ways to not make a light bulb.
That's it, right?
Put the spin on it.
Yeah, so maybe awareness, right? Awareness, we don't have to beat ourselves up. We've learned to do that since an early age, but it doesn't feel good.
Mm-mm.
So what if we kind of take some of Thomas Edison's thinking and say, hey, you know what? Oh, there it is again, beating myself up. It's not helping. More beneficial approach would be then fill in blank.
turn the negative energy into positive energy.
And why don't we celebrate ourselves more too? If we're so quick to beat each other up or beat ourselves up, not each
we
other.
are. Well, it depends on how much you get on my nerves.
Yeah.
Why aren't we celebrating, when we do something great? Hey, that was awesome, as much as we are prone to beat ourselves up. But listen, Randy, I could talk to you all day long.
Yeah, we could.
And I would love for you to life coach me. I've always wanted a life coach. How can people find you?
Well, a couple of ways. Randy@realpd.com. That's my email.
REEL.
Right? And I'll keep it real, I promise. And
I really like that.
there you go. Fast student.
Pun queen, buddy. Pun queen.
Or my cell phone, 717-414-6064. So either way.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
This was fun.
Yeah,
Thank you,
fun.
Randy. Really enjoyed that.
This was really great.
I feel like we should have you back for like a monthly segment.
Yeah.
Coaching
Yes.
people
That'd
up.
be great.
I really do.
Yeah,
Yes,
that'd be great.
I do love free therapy. I'm just kidding.
We all do.
Right. Yeah.
Coming up, we're going to take our last look at news and sports, and it's all powered by Virtus Men's Health in Hagerstown. They do have telehealth available. You can find them online at virtusmenshealth.com.
If you'd like to be featured on an upcoming episode of Let's Talk Tri-State, call 717-597-9200 or email letstalk@921thegoat.com.